work. Okay. All right. So something new. We finished Sanhedrin in our last session, and then we had a bit of a break because of the needs of the community. We're now going to start up with Bava Metzia, and then we're going to also have the needs of the community with the Chagim, and we're going to come back on the 26th. But we can't put off Mishnah forever, so let's go ahead and get rolling. We're going to be working in Bava Metzia. Bava Metzia literally means the middle gate. Natan's here. Great.
No, Yark is here.
Yarach is here.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me go. Let me get the door. 1 second.
I got it.
You got the door? Okay, thanks.
What does that name mean? What would you translate it to?
Moon?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very unusual.
Hebrew.
But I just never heard
As a
it
name,
before.
right.
As a name, I don't know. It's yeah.
So we'll wait and continue the introduction.
Sounds good. So this is Mishnah. There's Mishnah, Gemara, and
Well, that's it for, but Talmud is the compilation of the two.
of the two.
Right.
Okay, Mishnah.
Sort of the umbrella term.
And Sanhedrin comes under.
Well, Sanhedrin is Mishnah first,
Okay.
and then there is the Gemara gloss about the Mishnah, and that is what we call the Talmud.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have commentary and application and codification and all of that, but this is the primary layer, the bedrock.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the bedrock of the oral Torah that helps us understand the written Torah, which is what we're going to talk about when we start, once everybody's back in the room. Oh, there's the time.
Everybody, I got everybody.
Almost everybody.
Almost everybody?
Almost all of our full house.
Oh, there's one other person
Yeah.
that always comes to.
Hello, we were just starting. We thought you weren't going to make it.
I worked hard today.
Copy.
Natali's not here.
He came in right behind you.
Oh.
There's Natan.
Ya pensioner, llámatelo ahorita al teléfono.
Because I'm busy.
Busy for what?
Busy pensioner.
No, you know what
Up.
my mom.
Close the door so
My
the air
mom is
conditioner.
She's retired, but she's always busy.
Yes.
Why? How could you be so busy? Oh, I don't have time. You are a retired
Natan.
person. Come on, give me a break.
Natan, wait until you retire and you'll
Yeah, you've
understand.
seen the wife.
And you better hope your mother's not watching the broadcast. Okay.
I think that the answer is depending if how close I will be with Emily. Because what can make you very busy?
Okay, so Bava Metzia.
You stole my place, by the way.
Hospitality.
You stole my place.
Don't you remember the email we just sent out to the congregation
You're supposed to sit on the other side, right?
about hospitality?
I never read the emails. I never read the emails. Come on.
All
I
right.
actually did read that. It was
I'm gonna do-
nicely done.
I'm going to do Tochacha a little later. Okay, so
That was funny.
one more time. Bava Metzia, the middle gate. It's called the middle gate not because it's in the middle of anything.
Not really.
Oh.
All right. It's the middle gate not because it's in the middle of anything that is objectively middle. It's the middle gate because when the great section of Nizikin that dealt with many topics was found to be a little too large to fit into one volume, it was divided into 3 volumes. And this is the middle section of that massive collection of laws. Bava Metzia, like all the other Bavas, deal with laws that are of a very practical and very sort of normal, everyday life experience legal issues. And if you don't think you have any of those, great. At some point you will. At some point you are going to find a lost object and need to know what to do with it. At some point somebody's donkey is going to kick your car, or maybe someone else's car will kick your car or crash. Sometime a tree is going to drop fruit in your property. Somebody is going to cut back the hedge that was over the property line and kill it. Somebody is going to cause damages to your structures. the whole sections of the Bavas, of the 3 sections here, deal with a wide range of personal injury, personal property damage, lost and found, contract agreements,
And this
buying,
is the
selling.
middle Bavas, no?
What's that?
This is the second
And this is
Bava.
the second of the Bavas, exactly. That's why it's called the middle one out of 3. So my math teacher told me that when you had 3, there was 1 in the middle.
Someone didn't comment today about Slichot, about what was it? I forgot.
So we're going to start off with something that is given a very simple statement in the Torah, and you're going to find out it's a lot more complicated than you thought. Bava Metzia is often used to introduce students to halacha in general, because in the Torah it'll say that if you find lost property, your neighbor's ox or something else that belongs to your neighbor, you must return it to him. Very simple. We all know you find something, you have to turn it into the lost and found and all of that. Life is more complicated than the kindergarten. What do you do when lost things get tricky? What counts as lost? What counts as simply put in an unusual place? What happens when 2 people find something? How do you apply Torah in all of these cases? That's what we're going to begin with.
I got Ruben who did that class that one day.
Well, good. Then you'll be ahead of the curve.
Oh, he gave a 4-week class about that.
And that's what we begin with in Bava Metzia. So, Bava Metzia, Mishnah 1, we have a new packet that's gone around. This is from the United Synagogues Mishnah Yomit program, their translations and explanations, but of course you can study with additional materials as well. And this is only half of Bava Metzia. It's a fairly long Masechet, a fairly long tractate. So we'll get through this half, and then I'll print out the second half when we get there. Good, good, good. Volunteer. Yeah, thank you. Mishnah 1.
Mishnah 1.
Chapter 1, Mishnah 1.
2 people are grasping a cloak.
By the way, how do we say cloak in Hebrew?
It's a talit.
Talit.
Yeah.
Right, talit, not tzitzit. Those are the fringes, but talit.
Talit.
Right, so it's very funny when you see people learning Mishnah for the first time and they're doing Hebrew and they read the word talit, they immediately think prayer shawl. Now, this is any outer garment, cloak. What's that?
With the strings.
Well, it would have had the strings but if, for example, if it didn't belong to somebody who was Jewish, it might not.
Yeah.
But this is talking more about the clothing than about the mitzvah. So you find someone's overcoat, might be a modern English way of putting it. Although in Florida, you're not going to get one. Yep.
What is translation in English?
Overcoat? It's a cloak. It's the outer layer that you wear wrapped around you. In all of those Red Riding Hood, she had the little thing over her head and wrapped
Like a poncho.
a
Like a
poncho.
poncho,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Or like what
The serape.
Indians wear.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what we're talking about. In Hebrew, it would have been called talit, and it would have been worn for all day, not just for prayer, and a larger one, not just the talit katan, a larger garment that you would have worn to protect yourself. Okay, so this is what happened. They've got a cloak,
One
and
says, I found it. And the other says, I found it. Or one says, it's all mine. And the other one says, it's all mine.
okay, pause there. We got to have the situation visualized. All right, you got 2 people. And you've got a cloak. That's a cloak, okay? What's happening right now?
They're arguing, they're fighting amongst each other.
Before that,
They found
Found
it, lost and found.
how do we know they found it? What is the first verb in our Mishnah?
Grasping,
Okay,
holding it.
they each have a hold of the cloak. If they didn't, this is totally different. If only one person is holding on to it,
That's his.
then he found it. They both have to be holding it in order to
And
make
what
a claim.
about if one found, but the other one was faster and hold it before, but actually the other one found it.
What do you mean one found and fast?
Yeah, like,
Oh, yeah, okay.
Faster.
Okay. So what you're saying, let me make sure. You're saying somebody said, oh, look, a cloak.
yeah,
And the other guy went, zoom.
exactly.
We're getting there. Not
Yeah.
this Mishnah, but
Yeah,
later.
the next. Yeah.
But later, yes.
Isn't that what they say, like, possession is half the battle?
Or I think the phrase is possession is 9/10 of the law.
There you go.
Right. So they are both holding onto it. If they weren't both holding onto it, then the question would be, I found it and he stole it from me, right? But this is not the case. This is the case where both of them are holding it, claiming that each one of them found it. But they both have a hold of it, so we have to take their claims equally seriously, right? We'll get to what happens if we have witnesses or evidence, but right now we're just talking about claims. Two guys show up, they're each holding on, neither one's going to let go. Now, if you were ever on the playground and you got into a fight over, somebody found something, how did you solve the fight? Over who found the scarf, the hat, the whatever? You beat the other guy up, right? I found it, no, I found it, and you pry the fingers off of it, and you take it, and you hold him back, or you push him down. There's a fight. You take it. That's not happening here. Right. Because we have Mishnah, because we have Halakha, two people who have found it, who both claim that it is theirs, know they can go to the court. They can go to the Beit Din, and they can actually resolve this. Because they both want to. They both want to resolve this. And they're not fighting physically about this. They're going to go to the court instead. Right, so this is a big step up above the playground. All right. They're both holding it. What do each of them claim?
That is theirs.
Right. Mine.
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 100%. Okay, the percent claim is going to be important in just a minute. But each of them is claiming, I found it, it's all mine. And the other one says, I found it, it's all mine. Again, we have no witnesses, we have no other evidence, all we have is the claim. And the Mishnah gives two different versions. I found it, and it's all mine. Those are synonymous. Onward. They each swear.
They each swear that they don't own more than half of the clock, and they split the clock.
Cloak.
Clock.
The clocks are different.
Yeah.
So they each said it's mine, right? But what are they going to swear?
That each one of them owns at least half of it.
Right? So they each are willing to swear to 50%. Lou? What's that?
What does it mean to swear? Like 50%?
Well, first of all, what does it mean to swear? Okay,
No,
then we'll
yeah,
talk about
that's
what.
one. And second, if they say that 100 for mine, so
Mhm.
why you want to swear about 50%? It's half. Like, why you want to reduce your position if you believe that it's yours? Why you need to say, oh, you know what? Okay, at least it's half mine.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about what swearing means first, and then it might make a little more sense why they're going to swear less than their initial claim. Swearing means you are taking an oath before God. You're not just saying, it's mine. You are saying, I swear by God and all that is true and holy and perfect in the universe that what I am about to say is 100% absolutely, undeniably, by any other understanding or reality, true. Right? And that type of swearing mattered in the minds of our ancestors. It should still matter to us, but unfortunately people treat oaths a little bit differently. But this oath was of such importance and such status that if someone made an oath by the instructions of the court to that level, we believe them. But there's a problem. Both of them say that it's theirs. So what happens if we make them swear? Swear to me how much of it is yours. Right? What happens if they swear this?
Then they're lying.
Well, let's imagine from their perspective that they don't think they're lying. Right? They think they're right. They think 100% of the cloak is theirs. But are they going to get 100% of the cloak?
No. Well, actually, one of them will. That's true.
No, one of them won't. Unless one of them refuses to swear, in which case, yes, we know they're lying. But if both of them are prepared to swear at all, then if we make this guy swear 100% and this guy swear 100%, and yet we have no evidence or witnesses to prefer his opinion over his opinion, our end result is going to be dividing the cloak anyway. And now both of them are going to end up breaking their oath. Because if they settle for less than 100%, then that means they have violated the term of their oath.
Yeah, but you cannot divide and cloak, because if you divide a cloak, it becomes to be not a cloak.
Becomes
it's
a town.
different.
Yes.
Exactly.
We're going to get to the division in a minute.
So you change.
We're going to get to the division. We're going to get to the division. Okay, don't worry about the division. Worry about why we are asking them to swear less than 100%.
Yeah, but it's not about division. But the problem that they have is that you have an object, call this a pen. Okay. Yes, if you divide the pen whatever you want,
Yes.
or you are ready to, because the oath, you are
Right.
confident with God, you are ready to divide this in some way, that's become to be something different than a pen.
Okay.
Because less than 100% is not a pen, it's something else. So it's a problem. Okay.
All right, so I can see that I need to explain the division before we can get back to the oath.
Okay.
All right, so what are the sages going to do? You have a cloak. It's a beautiful cloak, made by the finest cloak guy ever. I mean, this is a great cloak. And the Tan is pointing out, you get out the scissors and you just go whoop, right down the middle.
Pointless.
No, could be in time, divided in time. 1 week each or something like that.
What the rabbi suggests is if you can divide it in half without reducing the value, then you divide it in half. If you cannot divide it in half without reducing the value, you sell it and you divide the money. Right? So you both grab the cloak and it's a beautiful cloak. And if you divide it in half, it's going to be worth less than half of the current cloak. Then they say, okay, the cloak is going to go to the marketplace. We're going to sell the cloak and we'll bring back the money and each of you will get half.
And what about if one of them is ready to pay for the half of the other?
They can work that out.
That's
Yeah,
fine also.
they can work that out. Yes. If one of them says, okay, fine, I'll take my half in cash and I'll pay you for your half, that's okay because they're both accepting the ruling of the court.
Sounds like the predecessor to divorce law.
Meaning when there's a shared asset that can't be divided in some other way, then you share the value of the property rather than the actual physical property. Yeah, we don't do the I Love Lucy thing where you put tape down the middle and you're on your side. Exactly. Or do a timeshare, which could also be very difficult. Well, the summer months are worse than the winter
We
months
do it with the kids though, right?
because children are much harder to take to the market and sell. There are laws about that. But by the way, the notion of dividing and the notion of lost and found and the product, the object being divided, children divide something, two people both claim as theirs. Is there a story this reminds you of?
Yeah, for sure.
Of King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech, when the two women both came and said, this is mine. What Shlomo did was treat that case like this. And that was what got them to respond the way they did. But what he was doing was just applying material law to a human being and did it very well in order to elicit the evidence of who was the true mother. But this is why he was doing it, right? He was using halakha wrong in a sense in order to scare the truth out of them. But he was applying this halakha. And had they appeared before him both holding the cloak, his answer would have been absolutely right. And according to the Mishnah. So yay for Shlomo. He was wise, but he was also showing us that Mishnah was right, that this was the way that people divided property, was that you would divide it in half if you could, and if you couldn't divide it in half, you'd sell it and divide the money. And so that's the issue. Okay, so now we know they're not really going to cut the cloak in half, probably. They might cut a piece of wood in half, but they're not really going to cut the cloak in half because it would diminish in value, and you don't do that. So why are we still vowing, taking an oath, less than the full amount if we think we own the full amount? Because you're not going to get the full amount. Right? Sorry, you've come to the court. You've both made equal claims. The court has no evidence, no witnesses by which to say this person is better than that person in claiming this to be true. So what we will ask, though, is that each of you will take an oath that you will swear to God, by God, and for God, that at least 50% of it is yours, so that when we give you half and when we give him half, both of you will be honest in your claim. And that way we settle this difference and you each go away with something rather than sitting there holding a cloak for the rest of your life or punching the person.
Isn't it against the Torah to swear?
No,
It says thou shalt not swear.
no, not swear falsely, not swear falsely, right? So you're not allowed to swear by God's name while lying. That is absolutely, and again, swearing, we're talking about taking an oath, a promise. We're not talking about using bad language. That's a different issue. Okay.
No, I'm not thinking of bad language.
I know, I'm just clarifying for the general class. Natan, you had a,
No, I was thinking that the connection with the real life, and I can understand why almost in every Israeli government there were some Orthodox party, because they apply the same concept for the negotiation in the Middle East with the Palestinians. Each of them want 1% of the land,
right,
and they try to, in some way, make it half, and if not, try to make a swing or money,
right.
maybe, and give you some territory and give you money. So this is the same concept,
Yes,
the
absolutely.
same application of the concept.
If you are in a position where there is no evidence or testimony that can convince the court that you are right and the other person is wrong, and all that is there is my word and your word, then the court would rather resolve the issue by simply dividing what is there, because that way there is a resolution. Because if you don't resolve the issue, then you each live the rest of your life with only one hand, or one of you is going to be beaten or a thief or in some other way or shape or form, you've done something wrong. So resolve it and swear so that we have some proof that you're willing to really go to bat for at least half of this, that you're not lying. So that swearing is the test to make sure that you really are honest, that this is at least partly yours. Do that and we'll give you half. And then we'll call it even and off you go. Let's look at part 2, Yaros, if you can read, and we'll see the contrast when you don't have 100% versus 100%.
Part 2. One says it's all mine, and the other says it's half mine. The one who says it's all mine swears that he doesn't own less than 3/4, and the one who says it's half mine swears that he doesn't own less than 1/4. And the former takes 3/4, and the latter takes 1/4.
Okay, so different argument. They both show up holding the cloak, but one of them says, no. I'm not saying the whole thing's mine. Half of it's mine. And the other guy says, no, all of it's mine. The resolution, one gets 75%, one gets 25%.
It's not the same, because one give 50% of the amount, the other one only 75.
It is exactly the same, because they are dividing equally the part they're arguing about. Right? One guy has already said, I agree with half of his claim. Right? Let me do the picture. Right? So you have guy A. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to be fancy with colors. Okay. You got guy A over here. And guy A says 100% is mine. And you've got guy B who says 50% is mine. Guy B has already agreed that this part belongs to guy A.
This guy, yeah.
Which means they both are arguing only about this.
Mhm.
And if you divide that evenly,
It's 75 and 25%.
75%, 25%.
It's the new math.
It's 50% of the remainder that they're arguing about gets for each of them. But 50% of the remainder is 50% of 50%. So 25% to one guy and 25% to the other added to his 50% of his original claim. Or his 100%, but the 50% the other guy had already agreed was true. Yay, math. See, it's important, right? Fractions matter.
But who is in his right mind would say only half is mine, and then the others, after he hears the other guy says it's all mine.
Mine.
You stupid, you get all the
No,
No.
for currency. When you have currency and you want to fight about someone's debt and you want to divide the money, the currency, and there is some property in the middle, it's very normal to hear something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's not direct, okay, but I'm second, maybe the son of the and brother, something like that, when I need to receive.
Hold on, wait. You guys are making this way too complicated. Who in their right, it's complicated enough, I know. Who in their right mind would only say it's 50% after they hear the other guy say 100%?
Yeah.
Somebody who's trying to be honest. Somebody who knows that he is going to be asked to swear before God
So he,
To
he's
his-
informed.
to his truth, to the truth of his claim. So if I'm going to be honest before God, and I don't believe I own 100%, I only believe I own 50%, then I better say 50%, because otherwise they're going to make me swear to 50% like this. And if I don't really believe that, then, or I can't swear more than I am absolutely 100% entitled to, because it would be a lie before God. I would be breaking one of the commandments. I mean, people took their word seriously, or at least the entire legal system was built on it. By the way, because of this and many other issues of what the person claims affects the outcome, is why the rabbis didn't like lawyers. And by lawyers, they didn't mean someone who argued on your behalf. They meant somebody who coached you on what to say. Because exactly as Zerach was pointing out, the lawyer might whisper in your ear, if 50% is what you really believe, if you say 100%, they're going to barter it down to 50% anyway, so you're okay. So go ahead and swear to 50%, and you'll get the 50% you think is yours, right? And that's not bad legal advice, but it's gaming the system in a way that means that this is going to be less reliable over time. And so the rabbis didn't like anyone else to be interfering and coaching the litigants on what to say.
But the litigant knows, because they study Mishnah and Torah. They know all these laws. So when they go in front of the judge, they know how to play, because they know what's going on.
So some do and some don't. But yes, there's definitely some, like the rabbis themselves, who know the halakha well enough to know what to say. But the idea, of course, is that as a person learns, they also learn more and more to respect the truth and the system and the meaning of halakha, to the point that they will only make the claim that they are willing to claim. Because remember, to claim 100% when you believe it's only 50% means you're lying in the first place, even though your oath will be true. And to be prepared to lie to get what you actually want is not a good midah, it's not a good moral character. So hopefully the more you study, the more righteous your actions will be from the beginning. And the more ignorant you are, the more we don't want you coached by someone who is being unscrupulous. It's a difficult system to try and work this balance, because you need people. Not much has changed. What's changed nowadays, of course, is that we try to get other evidence or witnessing to back up everything we can, because of that problem. If it's a he said, she said, or he said, competition, it's very hard to come to a resolution other than just split it. So yeah, it's not changed 100% at all. Maybe only 50%. All right.
It's not like the guy that says it's all mine, even though he maybe knew that it's not 100%.
Right.
He's basically
Lying?
Yes.
Yes.
So he's getting rewarded by 75% of the clock, instead of the honest guy that's getting only 25%.
But he still has to swear. Right? I know it's hard for us to get our head around this, right? So imagine I
So
gave
if you're
you,
willing to swear, you can get more than you're owed.
if you are willing to lie, you are able to get more than you are owed, and you will have to stand before the throne of God and face the judgment for that. If you don't believe in the throne of God and you don't believe in the judgment, then you might be perfectly happy about doing that. But at the end of days,
You will not have a place, as we learn in Sanhedrin.
Exactly. So this is built, I don't know how much you want to go into this, but this is all built on a notion that there is a shared system of belief and trust and social capital that is being accumulated by everybody working within the system and believing that everyone else is working within the system. So that I don't worry that I'm being ripped off when I speak honestly in court, because I believe the other guy is also speaking honestly in court, because neither one of us want to risk ruining the relationship we have, or ruining the relationship we have with God, or of bringing down the whole system, because then 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, there won't be a court, and we're going to be back to the playground, punching each other in the head to try and get the cloak. But you have to have an investment. You have to have a belief that this system is better than the alternative. And that belief is built in Judaism around the idea of covenant between each other and with God to support willingly giving up more than you might be able to manipulate from this moment, because you know that over the course of your life, your children's life, and the future of your nation's life, it's not worth it. Even if you're not thinking about the end of life, there's a belief that the society demands that I not totally game the system for personal advantage. Because if I do that, eventually the system will break, and when it breaks, it's bringing me down, my kids down, my grandkids down, and that's not worth whatever momentary advantage I get. And to be honest, that is a very real concern in every society. That as soon as people stop believing that the system is working for them and with them and for everybody in an equal way, then those self-imposed limits that prevent us from gaming the system begin to break down at different rates among different people. But there's a revolution, or just a general degradation, a corruption of the society, because everyone starts believing everyone else is already on the game. And if they're, ripping everyone else off, why should I be the only schnook not ripping myself off 100%, no matter what my real belief is, because I might as well get if everyone else is cheating. And then the whole society falls apart, and we're either destroyed by outside forces, we're destroyed by inside forces, or we're just murdered in an alley somewhere. And this system is built around the idea that everyone will believe it's better to have a system than no system. It's better to be honest than no honest, and we are bound to each other through Torah and through God, and that makes it all worthwhile. And yeah, that's a hard sell in the modern world, and that's really, really sad.
In some ways, it does reward the person who is willing to swear to what is not theirs, and doesn't give any protection to the person who is being honest. The protection they have is the consolation that they are a righteous person, or that they're a good person.
Right, and the consolation is the other person will be judged ultimately.
Yeah,
Ultimately.
And the cloak isn't worth me lying about.
Right.
The cloak isn't worth me becoming that other kind of guy,
Isn't
that
it
other
interesting
person.
that we're not able to create a system that eliminates that problem?
Well, it's impossible to ever eliminate a system without some form of like mind reading, or looking in a TV that shows you the past, so you can view every crime and all of its perfection. Every system, American legal system, Jewish legal system, every system, at some point is based upon the agreed consent that everybody knows they're not always going to get what they want, and that everyone else is trying to play the game fairly, or else it doesn't work. It's kind of like, imagine you wanted to play Monopoly with your friends, and everybody would come and you'd play for an hour, and then you'd go home, because Monopoly takes forever. And the game sat in one person's house. And then you came back next week and you played again. How long before you think the guy whose house it's in is maybe taking a little extra cash when no one else is around? Right? You come back and you go, did he really have that hotel? I don't remember if he had that hotel. Yeah,
You just take a picture of yourself, exactly.
So at a certain point, however, there is no ability to put in checks in place. I mean, we have checks of some level, but there is no way to have a perfect, infinite level of verification, which means you have to have trust. And if you don't have trust, you can't play the game. If every week you show up and every week you argue that that guy changed something and that he put extra money on the board or took something, you just can't play together.
But you have the same problem that we see today, that, for example, you can play if everyone knows the rules, but if comes someone from outside and don't know the rule, or don't have the same investment, moral investment, so you cannot play the game. You have
well, it's not that you're not playing the game. The game is broken, right? So you could, if you were taught the rules, if you were shown the benefits of following the rules, the rules were explained to you, most people would. By the way, in modern American life, we call that becoming a citizen. Right, where someone begins to understand how the American rules work and believes that the Constitution is the best system to rule the American society. then we're all on the same page. And if you're a citizen and I'm a citizen, then I know you've agreed to that, you know I've agreed to that, and now we can trust each other. That's the idea. And civil education, civic education, is very much about that. And believing that my neighbors are teaching their kids to be honest, and I'm teaching my kids to be honest, that's how we're able to go on living together.
But what do you do like in this case if comes someone from outside
So
and
someone,
doesn't respect the rules? How can you do like the same situation? Say, you know what? I don't care. I'm not here. I can't lie in order to obtain 100%.
well, first of all, someone who comes from outside who doesn't have a connection is more likely to be taken advantage of rather than to take advantage of the situation. You remember the Torah is constantly telling us that we have to look out for the rights of the stranger, because the stranger doesn't know the rules. He's more vulnerable rather than able to game the system. It is the traveler and the person who shows up that has no backup, that has no one to explain to him the rules, that is going to face someone where the stranger, we assume, is honest, is going to say it's 50% mine. The other guy goes, idiot, 100% mine, and gains 25% of the value. So you're right, it is an issue. And it's not perfectly done, but if the people believe that protecting the stranger and having one law for the stranger and the native is a value, then the system itself is supposed to protect that its own integrity, even with strangers entering the mix. If you start treating the stranger differently, then that begins to degrade. And then almost always, if you treat the strangers differently, you also start to look at other members of society differently. And you say, well, I'm cheating the stranger, I can also cheat these people. And eventually you're cheating everyone. As soon as you think it's okay to abuse one group, eventually you will abuse more, because you've given yourself the justification in one section. So yes, the system is built off a sense of reliability and trust and a shared commitment to the overall product of a good and righteous community. And if you don't share that, we're in trouble. And if the community isn't promoting it, we're in trouble. And that goes all the time. Okay, so end of sociology discussion and history of social contracts. Let's move back into Mishnah. Mishnah 2.
If two men were riding on an animal, or one was riding and the other one was leading the animal.
All right, pause real quick. We're talking about an animal that is a found animal, right? This is one that's not supposed to be returned. It's going to become someone's property. You were out in the desert and you found a donkey, right? It's not anybody's donkey. It was a wild donkey. They used to be all over the place. Riding the animal and leading the animal are both the equivalent of holding on to part of the cloak, right? There are ways to acquire animals. You acquire an object by picking it up and by holding it. You acquire an animal by leading it or riding it, because just grabbing the donkey's tail, that's not safe and it doesn't count, right? So you have to be leading it or riding it. So when we have these two guys, it's the equivalent, but put a donkey between them rather than having a cloak. Good, good. And one says,
and one of them said, the animal is all mine. And the other one said, it is all mine. They each swear that they don't own less than half of the animal, and they split.
And once again, just like Natan was saying, if you split a donkey, that means no one's happy. But what they would do was sell the donkey and financially split the value of the animal. Okay?
So what do they need to write again if it's the same idea? Why to repeat the concept?
One, it's clarifying that when we say split for something that can't be split without losing value, that we mean financial. Two, we're talking about animals so that you understand that an animal is acquired differently, that a claim on an animal can come by riding or it can come by leading, so that we understand that that's a little bit of a different situation. And then part two is going to give us the kicker. Sorry, Yerach?
2. If after the case is settled and they both admit to the other's claim, or if there are witnesses, they can split the animal without an oath.
All right, so if there is extra evidence or just admission of, yeah, he's got half the animal and I've got half the animal, you don't have to swear. Right? Swearing is proving something in the absence of either agreement or of testimony. So it's the nuclear option. The rabbis didn't like to make people take these oaths because they knew, as you guys had already said, that some people might be unscrupulous, and therefore you'd be putting a stumbling block before the blind. You would be encouraging someone to commit a transgression by giving them this opportunity to swear, even though they're going to swear falsely. So if they can avoid it, if they can get people to agree to mediation, agree to a reconciliation, agree to a compromise, or if you have witnesses, you can back it up. And so you don't have to go to oath for this. That is the preferred way to solve the problem. Oaths were only needed if you couldn't get to that agreement. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Makes sense. And of course it makes sense.
Mishnah 3.
Mishnah 3.
Okay.
And this is where we get to Natan's question that you had right up at the beginning of the day.
If a man was riding on a beast and saw lost property and said to his fellow, "Give it to me," and the other took it and said, "I have acquired it," he, the others, has acquired it.
Okay, let's make sure we got this. We got Mr. A. Mr. A is on his horse, he's riding along, and Mr. B is with him walking. And they're riding along and they see something shiny in the dirt. And Mr. A says, "Bring that to me." And Mr. B goes over and he picks it up and he says, "It's mine." Who does it belong to?
For him.
To Mr. B, right?
Because
The
he
guy,
acquired it.
exactly, the guy who took possession of it in his hand.
That's not fair.
It's not fair.
No, I have an issue with this because
Matan, if you see something, keep your mouth shut, jump off the horse, and grab it.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me why it's not fair, and then I'll tell you why it is.
because the B acquired it only because the A spoke and asked him to deliver to him.
No, B acquired it because he picked it up.
Because A asked him, "Please, can you deliver to me?" Because if you start playing in that way, you will have a lot of problems with
I
all
agree
the
with that.
rules in society. When you ask with kashrut or Shabbat, when you ask all the people, "Hey, can you do this, please?" and say, "Oh, I do." So the point for the mitzvah is not for you.
Well, yes.
So if you
Hold
go,
on.
if you
So let's use the idea that you just,
the issue, okay,
Okay.
the resolution to other situation that it's a problem.
okay, so both theologically and practically, your problem doesn't work. So let's use the opposite, right? I tell you, "Hey, you know, Mr. Smith over there, I heard he's trying to kill you."
Mhm.
And you go, "He is?" And you grab your gun and you shoot Mr. Smith.
Okay, you are.
Am I responsible or
I'm
you?
responsible because I was the one that shoot.
But
I
said it. But I'm the one who made you do it. Okay, so but it's you who pulled the trigger, right? So you're the one who did it. So let's go to the practical side of this case. We've got two guys with a cloak. Each of them have a hold of it. That is the only proof that they have a reasonable claim to some part of the cloak. If one of them had a hold of it and the other just walked by and said, "Oh, I like that cloak. Hey, that's mine too. I told him to pick that up." How would we ever be able to stop people from just saying, "I like that, I want half. I like that, I want half. I like that, I want half. I said he should get it."
Because here didn't say anything about witnesses, but if there were witnesses that they hear the other guy in the horse say, "Hey, can I see this? Can you pick up?" Can they change the situation?
No.
If you have witnesses.
No. Acquiring in Mishnah, in order to avoid all of these kinds of other issues, acquiring is done by acquiring, by taking possession physically of it.
So
When-
if you're not educated and you don't know this, and you tell the guy to go pick it up, because of your
It's-
ignorance, you have lost the ability to acquire it for
Yeah.
yourself, because you asked the other guy to pick it up for you.
I know. It
Hold on,
sounds
let me
so
just
mean.
let me rephrase this. You haven't lost anything. It was never
It was
yours,
never yours.
right?
But if you've been educated, you would know not that in order for that to be yours, you'd have to jump off your horse to go get it.
Right, but it's not yours and it's not his,
So no,
right?
But it would be mine if I jumped off the horse and I knew that that's the
But
way the
would-be has no,
rules
but
went.
would-be has no standing, right? The property is now ownerless, otherwise no one can acquire it, right? If it's my wallet, you're not allowed to acquire it no matter what you do. But if it's ownerless, then as I pick it up and hand it to you, it remains ownerless unless I choose to acquire it. And if you read, if you read the rest of it, we'll see the opposite case. The part A.
A. But if after he gave it to him, he said, I acquired it first, he has said nothing.
Okay, so if I pick it up, Mr. B, I pick it up, I hand it to the guy says, wow, this is great. This is my new ring or whatever. No, I meant that it should be for me. Tough, right? It's not in your hands, you can't acquire it. It's in my hands, I can. And the same thing for the guy on the ground. It's in your hand, you can acquire it. Not in my hand, I can't acquire it. So it's not whoever saw it first, which would never end with any sort of evidence at all. It's who has it that can make the claim. Because at least having it is some form of evidence that it was in your hand at some point, well, at this point. And that way the words are not just floating on nothing.
So you're saying that if I picked up a lotto ticket and she said, oh, Katie, let me look at this lotto ticket. I let her look at it, I let her touch it, and she goes, oh, no, it's mine.
Yes.
But
That's stealing.
so what
No,
happened if you go-
not
if you
your
go-
lotto ticket.
But I found it first.
No, you didn't.
I found it on the
No,
floor.
you saw it first. You did
And
not
I grabbed it.
you did not legally acquire it. If you pick it up and say, wow, I found a lotto ticket. How lucky am I? And she says, oh, can I see it? And then she says, it's mine now. No, that doesn't work. But if you pick it up and say, oh, this is interesting, and make no statement that this is now yours, it's just still a random thing that you found on the floor, and she says, can I see it, or can I have it, or anything like that, and you hand it to her, then absolutely it can become her property and tough.
I'm sorry, that's stealing.
So what happens
I just,
if you have
I
a
don't agree
lottery
to this
ticket
section.
and you give to someone supermarket to check if you win,
Yes?
and the person passed the ticket through the
Machine, right?
machine and say, oh, it's a winner. Okay, now it's mine.
It's not lost
No,
property.
no.
Right? We're going to eventually get, right? So one of the things that we haven't even touched on yet.
Okay, so mine
Is-
is only lost.
Well, yeah, we can't acquire someone else's property by grabbing it. That is called stealing.
The person
Yeah.
comes up later and says, wait a minute, that's my lottery ticket that I dropped
All right,
from
so
my
if you-
pocket, and here's the proof that
Right.
it was
So
mine.
if you can prove ownership, then obviously no acquisition can take hold. There are some special circumstances where it kind of sort of does, but they are rather unique. But we're going to talk about not today. We're going to talk a little bit later about how you know if something is acquirable. How do you know if something is truly lost to the point where you can now acquire it by possession? Because there's lots of things that are lost that, as we said at the very beginning, you have a mitzvah obligation to pick it up and find the owner, right? That is for a lot of things. Like a lottery ticket, for example, pretty much you can guess that there is a real owner there, and there might be a way to track them down. They probably can identify what numbers are on it, that kind of thing.
I don't know, because when I first moved to Altamont Springs in 2006, I went to BP at the time before it became Circle K. It was BP at the time. I actually bought a lotto ticket, Florida Lotto, before it became Powerball.
Right.
And I actually won all four numbers except for the one number left.
Right.
And
4 out of 5.
the lady said, oh, you lost one number and you won 4, but you lost. I found out when I told someone, so I left, I went home.
Right.
Minding my own business. Oh, you can throw it away. It's not worth it. And so I went and told somebody about it. They go, she just robbed you.
Well, yeah, that is. For someone to lie and convince you to throw something away so they can steal it, that is deceit. That is
Because
right.
I won $10 million.
And that's a shame, to say the least. But, and I don't know whether or not you would have had a case under American law. I only know rabbinic law. But that is different than the case here, right? The case here is you are walking on a mountain trail and you find something that is totally lost, stuck in the branch of a tree, blown by the wind. It's in the nest of a bird. There's no reason to believe you'll ever be able to find the owner. We're going to go into all the details of how you know something is ownerless later. Then you can acquire it. But if she tells you to go up the tree and get that piece of paper from the nest, and you bring it down and you hand it to her, it can become hers, even though you climbed that tree.
After all the work I did?
Yes.
Because you have to claim it.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds very like biting, like
if you are, hold on, wait a minute, but if you're not willing to abide by the laws of the court, then how in the world can society function?
So the question is, why is it that the laws of the court are such? And what would be the reverse of that that explains why the law was set up that way?
Because it's in my hand. Right? This is the only evidence I can bring to the court is it's in my hand, so I am more likely to be the owner, the finder, the believer, than you, who's not in your hand. That's
So in other words, if
possession
you tell me
matters.
to go get it, and I go and I pick it up and I say, it's mine.
It's mine
And this
now.
person says, no, but I told you to go get it. And you said, yeah, I did, but it's mine.
Right. You don't acquire
There's-
things with
there's-
your eyes. You don't take possession of something by looking at it, right? Think of the opposite. You walk onto the lot of a car dealership, right? And you say, that car over there, that's my car. Did you just buy the car?
No.
No,
No. Do you get to drive away with the car?
no.
If the guy, the dealer hears you say it, do you say, good, we have a deal. You have to pay me for the car.
Or you get arrested.
No, you did not buy the car just because you said it's my car. And you don't get to drive off with it, and he doesn't get to charge you for it. Because you don't acquire things with your words, you don't acquire things with your eyes. You acquire things with possession.
So if I go on the test drive and I'm driving the car with the key in my hand, how is it mine without paying for it?
No, because that was not agreed upon when the person handed you the keys for the test drive. But once they have agreed and you've shaken hands and they hand you the keys, it is yours. And even if you are about to drive off the lot and someone else comes on and says, oh man, I would have paid you twice as much for that car, the car dealer is not allowed to say, stop, I'm going to sell the car to him instead. Because you have now acquired it, it's in your hands, done.
Actually, if you want to return it to the dealer, it's not worth what you just paid for it either.
Or you can turn around and sell it to the other guy and make the profit yourself rather than the dealer. So there's lots of ways out of it, and it's nice that we have the good Jewish minds working.
Now, Rabbi. Now, Rabbi.
Yes.
This sounds very technical and really overboard, okay, and very extreme. But my thing today is with our technology today,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to find a lotto ticket, wouldn't you want to, wouldn't the Torah would want you to take it to like get the
Simple, you sign
get
Go to the
bigger-
police and lost and found, and yeah.
No, get it like DNA test on the lotto ticket.
So I don't know. I
The
don't
Torah
know how.
requires a lot.
Right. I don't know how traceable lottery tickets are, so I can't speak to this specific case. But if you find an item that can be traced like that, and you believe it can be traced like that, then absolutely you are duty bound to either find the person on your own, or is more likely in our modern society, to go to the authorities, either the lottery authorities or the police authorities, and say, I found this. What is the American state? What does the American law say about finding an object like this? And that is an overriding issue with regards to this, that if American law says you have to turn it in, even if Jewish law says you don't, we follow American law.
The law, but the police will probably laugh at me. Like, oh yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll take it.
You can actually, if you can't trust the police,
I
if you're not,
can do it.
well, then we've got much bigger problems. It's like going to the court. If you can't trust the court, if you're not willing to abide by the decisions of the court, then we might as well be running around in forest huts and with spears and animals to protect us, because we don't have a society anymore. And if you don't think we can, then fix it. Find a way to make a society that we can trust and live in with confidence that we are all working together. That is a big part of all of us. All right. Let me see. Yes, we can definitely do Mishnah 4, and we're going to leave Mishnah 5 for our next session because that gets a little more controversial. But Mishnah 4 is a bit more straightforward.
Okay, Mishnah 4. 1. If a man saw lost property and fell upon it, and someone else came along and seized it, he that seized it acquired it.
Okay, ready to be outraged again if there's any judge, if I can judge based on past reaction. The two of us are walking along, and we're traveling together for whatever reason, and we see an acquirable, valuable object on the ground. Again, we'll talk about what's considered truly lost and that you can acquire later. This this is a very expensive object that can be acquired. And I jump for it because I want to get it. And I land on it on my chest.
Oh my God.
And the guy next to me jumps, shoves his hand under me, and grabs hold of it.
That's it.
He acquired it.
He got it.
Oh my God.
He got it. All right.
You're very
Hey,
extreme.
we're American
That's
here.
like some kind of football.
I was going to say, we're American here. Tell me about football, right? When you're pulling guys off of the scrum and you're looking for the ball, does it matter who's on top of the ball or does it matter who's holding the ball, right? If you don't have possession of the ball when you go down, it doesn't count as a complete pass. Right? You have to have possession. Just lying on top of that pretty object doesn't acquire it for you.
But
You-
you stuck your hand underneath and grabbed it.
Yeah. Yeah, because if it's
That is
in your
okay.
hand, it's in your hand.
Yeah.
You have that is the means of acquiring, or one of the means of acquiring. And if you didn't do that, you didn't do that. And if you just throwing your chest on objects doesn't mean you own them. It's got to be taking possession. There has to be a defining limit. There has to be a thing, and this is something that is visible, demonstrable, and understandable, that we acquire things with our hands, not our torso. It's just not the way humans are built. We don't have little grabbers and tentacles or suction cups. Okay, let's get to the deers.
Two.
Yeah.
If a man saw people running in his field after lost property, such as a deer with a broken leg or pigeons that couldn't fly, and he said, "My field acquires them for me," he has acquired.
All right. So here you can actually acquire in quote with words. It's you. And you've got, I'm going to have to erase
But
this.
he has advantage. That's his field.
Well, yes, but it's not his stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm here and I own a lovely field. And in the middle of the field, there is, pardon my drawing, all right, there's a deer. That's a deer. That's the antlers. But the deer has a broken leg. The broken leg is important. Okay, and a couple other people have noticed this deer, limping around the field, and they know that since it's a deer, it doesn't really belong to anyone. No one has deer farms. So they're chasing after the deer, trying to grab it because they know first one who gets it, it's his. So they're running after this deer with the broken leg, trying to grab it. And I look out my back window going, hey, that's my field. that deer is mine. It's his. Done.
So what
Because
makes it different?
Because the
Why
field,
he doesn't have to acquire it?
the field is an extension of him,
Of him?
of his property. Therefore, anything that comes onto it
It's his.
with a certain definition, we're going to get to that, can be acquired by him. And what's that definition? The definition is the broken deer, the pigeon that can't fly. It is an object that has come onto his field that cannot remove itself from that area, right? It has already been added to his property. It just doesn't know it yet
Because it's broken.
because it's broken.
And what if it wasn't broken?
Read the next part of the Mishnah.
Okay. Yeah, if the deer was running normally, if the deer was running normally, or the pigeons flying, and he said, "My field acquires them for me," he has said nothing.
Right? So, yeah, there are pigeons that land in my field all the time, and they come down and I say, "Oh, my pigeon," and oh, they fly off and land in someone else's field, and he says, "No, they're my pigeons," and then they fly off and they land in the middle of the street, and someone grabs them. Who owns them?
The one who grabbed it.
The one who grabbed them in the street. Because they were never yours, just because they landed in your field for a while. A deer jumps over your wall, eats some of your grass, leaves past the other wall. That was never your deer. So whoever gets it, gets it.
What do you want with the deer with a broken leg, though? I mean, why do you need to possess this anyway?
Well, so you can absolutely, deers are kosher, first of all, but more valuable probably than the meat would be the hide. That would have been a very worthwhile commodity.
So it's a broken leg, and now
Deers don't, the shofar, the antlers don't work. They're not horns there.
You can make a rack for them. Then.
Exactly. You can make a visual aid for teaching Mishnah. So this deer, now it is important to note, if the guy's running after the deer in your field, grab it, before you see it and make the statement that you acquired it, they got it.
Even
Also,
if the deer is not,
What?
Even is broken there.
Even if it's broken. Even if it's broken.
even if it's broken.
If they
and
acquire it
catch
before you, they acquire it before you.
So the field loses the advantage.
Well, the field is only an extension of me. It's like my hand. If it jumps into my hand and leaves without me holding on to it, I never had it. Go back to your football rules, right? I went to catch the ball, it hit my hand and bounced out, not a reception, right? My field, my hand is open, the deer jumps in, and someone else grabs it and takes it away, my hand never had it. But once I say, my field gets it, now I've got it.
And
So
even if that person comes after it and says, but it was really mine, can they then go prove that it really was
if they can
theirs?
prove true ownership and all of that and say, no, my deer escaped and it just jumped over the wall, blah, 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 of course, of course. I mean, this all this can end up in court for lots of other reasons. But this is trying to establish the basic principles. And the one that's coming over and over and over is you got to hold it to own it. When we're talking about lost property, right? If it's your cow and it's out in the middle of the street, as we're going to see, that doesn't mean it's a lost cow and someone else can come up and take it. But when there's an animal or an object that falls under the category of things that are declared to be lost by Mishnah, then this is how you get it. So you got to know first how to get it, and then you got to learn what it is you can get. And that's what we're going to move on to, but we're going to also find out in Mishnah 5, some people, when they acquire, don't always acquire for themselves. You're acquiring on behalf of someone else. Okay, but that's all the time we have for tonight. We will continue October 26th after the Chagim. I know. So I'm not going to ask you to come in right after Rosh Hashanah. I'm not going to ask myself to come in right after Rosh Hashanah. And then we have Yom Kippur, and then we have our dinner in the Sukkah celebration with the congregation. And the week after that, right after Simchat Torah, then that's when we will continue our Mishnah.
26.
The 26th of October.
If I find that lotto and you say that, I'm really going to.
What about the,
Right, like I said, if the problem is you don't think it's fair, you take it to court. And American law can settle it. And as soon as you think you're the court, we have no more justice. We have only vengeance and anger. And the Mishnah from the Torah is designed to prevent that from being how we run our countries and lives.
All I know is I got robbed by that cashier.